Today's guest is one of those people who made us stop and rethink whether the name Almost Pro still makes sense. Because on paper, Chris Eversley did the thing. He grew up around basketball, became the first Division I athlete from his high school, built a professional career overseas, and got to experience the version of sport that so many people spend years chasing. But when we spoke to Chris, it became pretty obvious that basketball wasn't the only reason we wanted him on the podcast. What grabbed us was everything that happened after he played. Chris had already stepped away from professional sport and was building on his career, asking questions about athlete identity and transition, and looking at ways to create better pathways for people figuring out life after competition. And then, completely unexpectedly, he experienced an injury that changed everything. Not while playing professionally or chasing one last contract, but a little bit later. What followed was recovery, reinvention, and in a strange way, being forced to live the exact problem he'd already started trying to solve for other athletes. So today's episode is about basketball, but it's not all about basketball. It's about identity, transition, rebuilding, and what happens when the chapter you thought was finished suddenly asks something more of you. Chris, welcome to Almost Pro.
I got to snap on that one. I appreciate the intro, and for our guests out there, not sure how many are basketball fans, but we'll keep a little basketball around. The rest of it is about identity and all that stuff. But again, thank you both for having me, representing live from here from sunny, high tax Los Angeles, and excited to be here with y'all today.
Oh, we love it. We love it. And we're so grateful to have you. So grateful to have you, Chris. Chris, we don't love that this is part of the segment we have to do, but we often have to take you back to the start to be able to tell the story. So we're going to just drop you right at the very beginning and say, what did sport give you?
Sport gave me purpose. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people associate with it. And I think that's one of the issues a lot of athletes face, whether they're able to walk away from it under their own power or it's taken away from them, like it was the second time around for me. You know, I joke with people and say, I'm the Michael Jordan of retiring because I got to do it once by myself, but then twice it wasn't under my control. But, you know, now I'm living in a post-career world, trying to build a world like he is, you know, reinventing, reimagining something that you were known for so many years. And honestly, finding a new purpose and helping other people find theirs as well.
Yeah. I think when you've reached the thing that so many athletes chase, it can become difficult to know what's next. It can become difficult to make decisions on what's next. And I love the way you just broke that down into the two parts of, you know, once you decided and then the second time it was decided for you. Just before we kind of say, you know, you're a basketball superstar. You did it professionally. You did the D1 pathway. You did the thing that American basketballers really chase. But it would be remiss of me not to say, tell us where you played.
Yeah, so my first college, I actually went to Rice University in Houston, as you mentioned, went to a super nerdy high school, was the first D1 student athlete out of there. And then things didn't work out in the typical old school transfer rules. I transferred out to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is nestled on the Central Coast in California, about pretty much halfway in between LA and San Francisco. So a perfect location to just go get a great education, and you're not in a major city, so no distractions, and all you can really do is work on your game. So worked on my game, got my degree, and 2 weeks after graduation, I was on a plane to my first professional job.
Where were you going?
I was going to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I realized at that time, a lot of people just hit me with the Zoolander, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, right? Like that was the whole joke back then. And I honestly had not heard much about it, but I think that was something where I was like, this is going to be different. Again, my second language is Mandarin, so I knew I would fit in kind of, sort of. But at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? This is something completely different than anything I've ever experienced from a cultural standpoint, from a time zone standpoint. And just the assimilation was nothing I could have imagined, because as soon as I got there, everybody on my team, everybody in the community really embraced me. And that's the reason why I played my rookie year there. I went back and played my fourth and fifth years there before I retired, ultimately in 2019. So just super grateful for the opportunity. I mean, the cool thing about that league was everybody in our league was in a different country. So you're, 10 teams, 10 different countries, and you just get to, at 22 years old, you can't ask for a better experience to be out here seeing places that you only saw in social studies books. And yeah, so very fortunate. I think that experience all 3 years has really shaped who I've become and what I'm building now.
On that point, Chris, that's because that's an incredible journey in itself. When you were going through those years playing over there, at what point did your first thought come along about what comes next after basketball? Was it happening while you were in play through those years, or did that sort of thought about, okay, what I'm going to do after basketball and in life after happen when it was kind of forced to happen?
I would say it actually came when I got to college because when you get to college, you go on one of two paths. And I feel like it's I say three paths as a basketball player. And there are three very distinct paths. Hey, I'm good enough to go to the NBA. That is path number one. Hey, I'm good enough to go play professional basketball. That's lane number two. And again, as we all know, there's varying levels of that. Lane number three, I know this is as far as the road goes. So for me, I knew path three really wasn't an option. I knew I wanted to play in professionally or if I wanted to play in the NBA. So as you kind of go through college, you start to get a gist of it. Am I on draft boards? Am I having conversations with the people who are in the draft rooms?
Right.
So by the time I got to senior year, I wasn't in those NBA conversations. So here we are on the middle lane. Let's go play professionally overseas. So I think once I kind of realized that I wasn't going to make generational money like these guys are making now, I knew that my time playing basketball was going to be finite and I knew it was going to stop. So I looked around and said, okay, my friends that have played, what are they doing now? How are they kind of assimilating into life after they're done? And typically it's always going into entry level sales or doing basketball training. Those are very impactful things, and they can be, especially the training kids, but they aren't lucrative. And I wouldn't even say lucrative to making millions, but I would just say to sustain a life living in Los Angeles. So for me, I'm like, okay, what am I going to be able to do afterwards that is going to be able to afford me the lifestyle that I want? So for me, that question pretty much was solidified by the time I was a senior, regardless of how the year went. I knew I wasn't going to get drafted. So I was like, let me figure out what this is going to look like long term because I don't want to be 35, still trying to figure it out, all of that stuff. And that's kind of just how that cookie started to unfold.
Did you have good people around you, Chris? Because you're one of very few athletes we've spoken to. And we've spoken to a few who are already thinking about this while they're still in school.
I did. And luckily, I was very fortunate to have two parents who played. So my dad played, he got drafted by the Bulls, got injured, went and played 7 years in Sweden. My mom played for a top three NCAA program back when she was in college. And there wasn't an option for her to go play afterwards because the WNBA didn't exist.
Right.
So both of them had very hardline examples of, again, ironically enough, now that I think about it, my mom retired under her own will because, I mean, there's nowhere else to go and then my dad retired, due to an injury. So is I'm kind of living them both, which is weird. And but again, both paths end up leading to the same direction where you don't have this generational wealth. So what are you doing with this experience? Like you've been able to go around the universe, collect all these infinity stones, metaphorically speaking. Now, how are you going to channel that into something that is not only good for you, but you can translate and help other people because you're not going to be the last person to go through this as well.
It's so important too because so many athletes get to the end of the road, like we were sort of saying earlier, where they reach the end of their sporting career and then start to think, oh, I need an education, or okay, maybe I will, like you said, go into sales or go into coaching or something where you can jump in and hit the ground running metaphorically. So to be having that kind of awareness and really forward planning, is such an asset and also really shows the creativity that comes along with being an athlete. I like to think that no matter what sport you're playing, if you've dedicated a portion of your life to playing sport, it's a little bit like your art, right?
Mm.
So you're having to think constantly outside the box on what can I do in this game, and that's the same principle that you then carry on into life, right? Like after sport, what am I going to do? And you create that for yourself, which is really what you've done, and it's so impressive. So talk us through what are you doing now that you have stopped playing? What did that transition look like?
No, that's a great question. And just kind of to touch on that, I love the art piece of what you just said, because if we're going to use basketball as a lens and you can say, all right, the point is to score baskets. So if I say go out and score 2 points, there's a million ways to score 2 points.
Right.
There's a dunk, there's a mid-range jump shot, there's a crossover to a move. So I tell people all the time, and it's the same way I tell people in business, there's a million ways to $1 million. You just have to
Yeah.
find yours.
Yeah.
So for me, that revealed itself in a very different way. So when I retired in 2019, my first big boy job, I was a director for the YMCA. So I got really into it's about the mission and recruiting people and volunteers and all of that stuff. Again, I was making $55,000 living in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of tough. So then COVID happens. They lay off a lot of the staff. I'm impacted. And then I spend a couple months doing tech sales, really just learning the technical side of selling. I mean, that we had a product and I'm figuring out different acronyms and blah, blah, blah. So again, kind of just going along, picking up these tools. I was working at a restaurant because you just have to make ends meet. So I was working in Beverly Hills and pretty much like living this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. And then in April of 2021, I actually got on with a fintech company based here in LA. And the first year I worked on the recruiting team, and really just kind of understanding recruiting, talent acquisition as a whole. And I thought to myself, okay, this is cool, but it's very repetitive. And if there's one thing I don't like about anything in my life, is just repetition. I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again, similar to the art. I want to be able to create and flow. So I lobbied for a position that was the employee experience specialist. So pretty much what I was doing was responsible for the employee life cycle. So belonging, development, talent development, pretty much anything you can think of, with giving people a space to feel seen and supported and being invested in their growth. And I was the only person at the company essentially responsible for that, while everybody else was busy because it was an early stage startup. So I did that for about 2 years. So I was at that company about 3 years in total. But really just, it gave me a way to blend my athletic experience with people operations and HR. So then it gave me this very unique lens to say, okay, I've been an athlete, I've been a team captain. How does that translate to this 9 to 5 work culture? And that was something I found myself sitting at the intersection, where I was like, you know what? I need to create a company for this, because I realized I have a very unique lens, and there's going to be hundreds of thousands and millions of athletes that come after me in their respective sports who could use this essential playbook, or manual rather, on how to make that jump when your purpose and your identity do require a shift. So that is where Overtime Solutions, my company, was born. And now we stand as essentially a 3-lane highway. The first lane is pretty much leadership development. That's something I've been doing for a couple of years now. I work with teams to essentially foster creative and emerging leadership. What is it like to manage people? What is it like to empower your people? What is it like to really get to know your people outside of a performance view or a weekly check-in? And that is something that a lot of people gravitate towards, because the landscape has changed a lot, obviously, for layoffs and AI and all of that stuff. That's one lane. The second lane is actually AI enablement and adoption. So very early on, when AI slop was Will Smith having 4 eyes and eating spaghetti, I was starting to teach it. And y'all remember those days. I actually was starting to teach it.
Me too.
I was facilitating the workshops in LA, getting professionals from Disney, getting professionals from just Sony, like different walks of life, but who were curious about AI. So I started teaching AI in the summer of 2022, just to people who would want to come and listen, went around a bunch of co-working spaces. So then I really just started getting hands-on with that and kind of teaching myself how to use it, and then also bringing people along for the journey. And then lastly, but definitely not least, because this is probably the priority at the moment, is student athlete development and wellness. So pretty much what it encompasses is, again, the same issues that I dealt with when I graduated 12 years ago, they still exist. So I recently got back from a conference in which I had a keynote presentation I had a leader manager workshop, and then I also spoke on a panel with 2 other doctors. I'm not a doctor, but they were. So I felt honored just to be there. But I had the opportunity to speak to up and coming managers and leaders about how to best find their unique leadership style and how to still row even when the waves are choppy and if it's the middle of the night and you're looking for your lighthouse. So that's my thing. That's the 3-lane highway that I'm essentially building on right now with a very lean team, but it's all encompassed to say that Overtime Solutions is a human enablement company. Whether you're an athlete, whether you're an administrator, whether you're a practitioner, whether you are a corporate team, whether you're a middle manager, you can come to us because we are here to enable you and your team for today and tomorrow.
So good.
Incredible.
Thank you.
I've got so many questions about Overtime Solutions, and I want to do them next. I just want to talk to you first about during your early stages with Overtime Solutions, you had an injury that set you back.
Yes, the injury that changed everything and still confuses doctors around the world. So, yeah, I would just say that everything that you think is the dead end is not necessarily the dead end. So I say that with respects to the metaphor that when you are coming up to a dead end sign and pretty much, it'll tell you meters ahead, dead end ahead. And then you get at the end and there's the sign. What's beyond that sign? It's not the end of civilization. Like, it's not like you're just going to clip off like the back rooms, right? Like, it's a situation to where, no, it's uncharted territory. It's a road that still needs to be traversed. It's a road that still needs to be explored. And that is what this injury signified for me. It was a dead end, but that doesn't mean I can't chart my own road. Again, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to get the materials. You're going to have to get the buy-in. You're going to have to get everything you need. But you're allowed to build beyond that. And I think that's what this injury really allowed me to do. So in September of 2024, I was out playing with some friends and ended up dislocating my knee, but not the traditional dislocation where it's a patella situation. I dislocated the entire knee. So pretty much tore everything, ACL, LCL, tore my hamstring, severed a nerve, blocked an artery, pretty much the starting 5 of things you should not be doing when you dislocate your knee.
Chris, were you trying to do something spectacular here? Like, were you trying to were you being too artistic? Were you creating something that shouldn't have been done?
Did you go for Castle on the court? Is what
That's right. Yeah.
To put it in perspective in the art analogy, I was literally doing something that is equivalent to gathering my paint materials. I'm just something I had done millions of times. You gather your materials every single day. This injury, the mechanism was I was running, I planted non-contact by myself, minding my own business. And my knee just said, nope, we're not doing this today. Physics, do your thing. And the knee just did its thing for the worst. And I found myself in the emergency room an hour later. The doctor's like, we can't see anything because your calf is the size of your quad, and that is not normal. So we do all the scans, and he comes in and he's like, look, honestly, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to put you upstairs for a little bit, and then we're going to make a game time decision on how we're going to approach this. So for me, I'm the type of person where I like to know all the rules before the game I'm about to play. So I asked him straight up, I'm like, Doc, what are we looking at here? Like, what is the situation? He's like, well, my biggest fear is that we might actually have to amputate your leg because your blood flow is compromised to your lower leg. And I'm thinking, what? Like, excuse me?
Yeah.
I wasn't in a car accident. I wasn't trying to dunk on anybody. I wasn't doing anything spectacular by any means. I was doing the most boring, repetitive movement I've done for the last 32 years. So, he comes upstairs a couple hours later. He's like, I'm on the phone all night. I'm reading my literature. Something tells me we got to go to surgery right now. So they come in 6:30, take me into surgery. And I wake up what was supposed to be 4 hours later. I woke up 10 hours later with way more equipment than I had asked for or knew about. And he's like, we managed to save the leg, obviously, but the first bypass didn't take. You lost a lot of blood. There was a higher chance than we'd like to admit that you just almost died completely. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm glad you're telling me this afterwards and you didn't wake up to tell me these things. So, yeah, I mean, I found myself on that path. And when I woke up, I remember the last thing I said to him before they put me under in the operating room. I said, look, if you allow me to keep my leg, I will handle the rest, whatever that looks like. And he's like, we'll try our best. And I woke up with my leg, a lot of rods in it, a lot of staples. And I said, look, we had a deal. You handled it. Now it's my job to finish it. And that's what started an 18-month recovery journey, 7 surgeries, nerve transfers, uh, knee manipulations, rebuilding parts of my knee with other people due to donors. And yeah, we're about we're 21 months out now since the original injury. And yeah, I'm back in one piece and now I'm traveling the world and doing cool stuff.
And now, time for a short break. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to join the Almost Pro community and stay up to date with the latest episodes and news. To find out more or to apply to be a guest, visit almostpropodcast.com today. It's amazing, Chris. One question I have is that moment that you realized, okay, this is not just, I've done an injury on a basketball court. This is potentially a life-altering, life-changing injury, and you're told this. What's going through your head in that moment?
Yeah, it's one of the darkest moments that you can have as a person because there's a sense of disbelief. Because I tell people all the time, and this is the doctors who have agreed with me on this. It's one thing if you make a conscious decision to put yourself in this position. It's one thing to say, all right, I've had one too many beers. I'm going to go drive. Like you consciously make that decision to do something bad. This is the exact opposite. So, it's a sense of disbelief because what do you mean you're about to take my leg and I almost died because I was playing basketball? It just doesn't, your brain can't compute the math. And, very quickly, I moved on to acceptance. For me, in that moment, again, the reality of it is, okay, I asked the darkest question about what is possible. He gave me the darkest answer about you might not wake up with a leg. And what am I going to do? I can't tell him no because the surgery needs to happen. But I've always been very quick to move on from the dark and the light. I'm a very middle of the road type of person. I'm a very next play mentality type of person. All right, cool. I hit a basket. Now I'm back on defense. Damn, I missed that shot. I'm going to get back on defense. But it's always next play. So for me, it's all right. You gave me the harsh reality of what I'm facing. We're going to go through the next 12 hours of what this looks like. And regardless of how I wake up, it's got to be next play. So, it's essentially a 2-step system with 2-factor authentication, if you will, where it's like, okay, disbelief. All right, you sit with it, but regardless of where this goes, acceptance. Accept the fact that you might wake up without a leg. Honestly, accept the fact that you might not wake up at all. And that's the harsh reality of the situation. So, whether it's life or death, whether it's business, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a podcast, for me, I'm just like, okay, accept what's in front of me and just chart the course from there if you're fortunate to be able to have the next play.
You know what, Chris? This is why Overtime Solutions is going to do big things, right? Or is doing big things because you come at it with a lived mindset. You've been here. You've played this game before, right? You've contemplated the what's next in multiple scenarios. You've contemplated what's next as an athlete who has spent all of those first formative years building towards an athlete career. That's the thing you were chasing, right? So you did it. But even then, you said yourself, you did it on the second lane because you recognized the first wasn't available to you. Lots of people don't do that, Chris. Lots of people go, I will force the first. I refuse to accept the second because that's the only option for me. Whereas you went, no, I know the thing that's in front of me and I'm going to do the best with it. I'm going to give everything to that thing. But I'm also not denying that thing has to end too. And so I'm going to start building towards what comes next for me. You've got this phenomenal story of transition. And I'm so stoked to be chatting with you about it. It's a powerful story. I think it gives all of the credibility to Overtime Solutions because you can quite literally say, I've sat there. I've sat in that spot. I know what it looks like to be an athlete contemplating my what next. I know what it looks like to be just a guy living his life, trying to contemplate what next, maybe a leg, maybe not, don't know where I'm going here, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to go next. So I think for anyone who finds themselves in the hands of Overtime Solutions, I would say they're pretty safe hands.
Well, no, thank you. I appreciate it. They're freshly manicured hands too. You know what I'm saying? I realize I'm holding a lot of people's future. I gotta have my nails and my cuticles right. But no, there's two things that I just wanted to touch on about that. I would say, because I think a lot of athletes, and I ran into this at this conference I was just at with the practitioners, and one of the pain points is, how do you tell a kid that's making millions of dollars in NIL to think about plan B? And I broke it down to them very simply, and I'll break it down to our listeners very simply. If you are an athlete or if you're not, let's just take Kobe Bryant's my favorite basketball player, right? So I'm from Chicago. I wasn't old enough to really grasp Michael Jordan, but I was old enough to grasp Kobe Bryant's legacy. I watched him play. The thing that made Kobe Bryant so special, and the thing that makes any athlete so special, is the ability to pivot. So we talked about it earlier, kind of just bring the through line here. There's a million ways to score 2 points, but every athlete, regardless of your sport, is going to have a go-to move. And if you are the number one player, guess what? The other team knows your go-to move. So what does that mean? You should probably have a counter to that go-to move. And that is what I tell athletes the plan B is. I don't care how good you are. If you're being scouted correctly, they're going to cut off what you're best at, AKA your career is going to end. What is your counter move? And any
Yeah.
athlete that sits here and tells me, oh, well, I don't have a counter move, my plan A always works, you're probably not going to get that far. Because if you're any good, like I said, if you're at the top of the scouting report, teams are going to know what you're best at and they're going to take it away. And that is essentially what the workforce is. Oh, you were a star athlete? Cool. We've got plenty of those. What is your counter move? So for myself right now, I have plenty of counter moves, and that's why my company is 3 lanes. If one lane is like, all right, cool, somebody scouted that out, guess what? I got 2 other moves I can go to get my 2 points. So I just challenge all the athletes out there. Think of it like that. Think of it as, do you have a counter move when the defense actually knows what you're doing? And does it still get the same result? Can you get those 6 points on the touchdown? Can you get those 2 points in the basket? Can you still score when it's PKs in the World Cup final and your goalie that you're up against knows that you heavily lean right? Are you going left? Can you go straight? Do when they dive? So again, my brain goes left and right with these type of things, but I just implore people to have counter moves, because any good defense, whether it's life, whether it's another coach, whether it's another team, they're going to scout you, and you have to be ready to score in a various amount of ways. And, my tagline that I'm working on now in this rebranding of Overtime Solutions is built through necessity, not from convenience. And that's
Yeah.
what the life motto is. Like, I built all of this, and I'm building all of this with a team of people out of necessity. We're not building this all willy-nilly because it sounds cool. We're
Yeah.
building this because we know we're not going to be the last amount of people to go through this. So, the ethos of OS is it's built out of necessity, not from convenience.
So tell us then, how do you help people? What would I come to Overtime Solutions for? I hear everything you just said then. I think you might be talking to me. What will you do for me if I turn up there?
Well, it depends. Like, anything that I do, it starts from the basis of curiosity. So if you're coming to me, odds are you're interested in something that you've just heard. And like I said, we're going to go on a 3-lane highway. Are you interested in AI adoption and enablement? My biggest thing with that is I teach non-technical people AI. So whether that's teams, whether that's individuals, that's one lane. I speak to those people. The next is leadership development. Executives, even I teach athletic departments leadership development, essentially. So, I work with individuals, I work with teams, I work with executive leaders. Pretty much that's that lane. And then the last lane is working with the student athletes directly through the athletic departments and working with, the practitioners. That is a very specific niche lane. But like I said, it's probably the one that I light up the most about, because that's my lived experience. And that is a population that I care very deeply about. And I know they can look at me and say, damn, like Chris is me, or I aspire to be Chris. So I really want to work with those people to help them across their journey, across the spectrum. But I would say if you find yourself in one of those three buckets as an individual, as a team, or honestly as an enterprise for the AI stuff and the leadership development, OS is for you. Like that's the best sign, the best neon sign I can put outside of the store. And it's flashing and it's booming. So come join. Come in and hang out with us.
It's I don't know about you, Francis, but now I'm just sort of seeing with the way you think about and structure things is just so fascinating, right? Like I'm wondering before I go and recommend basketball to literally every human I cross paths with on this planet moving forward, is this is this like mindset or is this way of thinking, is this developed from basketball? Is this something that you had to develop to be able to work within your team on court that then helped you transition into what you're doing now?
I do believe that all of us are born with a certain trait, but similar to allergies, sometimes they just get unlocked based on you
Yeah.
eating certain foods. So, I
Wow.
mean, I flipped out on the other side of the coin and say, all right, you have this trait, you have it in you, but you also need to unlock it somehow. And I think everything from me being an athlete as a kid, me not growing up in the best of neighborhoods, and me essentially having to chart my own course, leaving home at 17 and honestly just figuring it out led me to become who I am. And I think again, like, that next play mentality, that's something that's been who I've been since I was a little kid. And, really just having to understand making it out of where I made it out from, it requires a lot. And I think again, that is kind of the multiplying factor. And then as you get older, you get out in the world and you get to experience more, this is a familiar sense of adaptability. As a kid, it's like, all right, cool. Maybe I shouldn't go down that block. That's a conscious choice. I adapt and I go this way. Then you go into becoming a professional. All right, well, that person seems a little strange. I should stay away from them because that vibe is off. So, you essentially have the trait in over years and eventually decades. It becomes so fine tuned that it allows you to help other people because it becomes a very unique lens that you have. And I'm fortunate to have that lens now. And I'm just creating a way to give back to people that, um, they may have found themselves in my position. They will find themselves in my position. So, I enjoy that. And I enjoy helping people find the thing that essentially could unlock the trait that leads them to the best version of themselves.
I'm so glad we're sitting here having this chat to you and that you're the person that's created this. You know, it's one thing to just create something and then it's another to make a difference in something that has been created. And you're making a difference using your history and everything that you've gone through with your injuries and to make actual difference in the world. And that's so important that people like you do this, and it's just like really beautiful to witness it in motion. I guess my next step of curiosity here, this is
Bring
just
it
a
on.
train of curiosity. My next step of curiosity here is like, is there an ultimate goal here? Is there a certain target? What's your goal for Overtime Solutions over time? Where do you see it in the future?
Yeah, the goal for overtime solutions is very simple, and that is enable as many humans as possible. It's the same reason why I rebranded as human enablement, not just leadership development, not just adoption enablement. I just think that it's those buzzwords have essentially run their course. And I'm human centric at the end of the day. Everything I do is centered around human design, human psychology. So for me, I think my unique skill set of being in people operations, being in HR, being in the AI space as a facilitator and a builder, where the world is going, we need to enable humans with those tools because I'm very big on just democratizing information. I tell people all the time, I'm the person that got lucky enough to get invited to the house party with all the cool kids and all the rich people. And now I'm about to go open up a window and let people in to say, "Look, yo, come look at this. Like, what's going on?" So I think like that's just the way that I look at it. I just want to enable as many people as humanly possible with the unique lens that I have. And now that spans the NCAA. It spans corporations and enterprises via HR. It spans individuals just looking for leadership development or teams. So, I'm doing my best to keep mixing the paint that I've been fortunate enough to gather. And that is the piece of art that I'm currently working on.
That's so cool. And you have, in some kind of way, incidentally become a super coach, just so you know. I know we spoke about sales and coaching, and that's what athletes tend to go into, but you were like, nah, let me just do that 3 times over and create overtime solutions and just be this super coach. So I think it's great.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, like super coach, I'll take that, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it goes back to the whole scouting report thing. I never want anybody to be able to say, "Oh, damn, I got him scouted. I got him figured out." My dad has a saying: "Moving target is hard to hit." So I'm constantly on the move. My brain is constantly developing. And for anybody out there who's at that crossroads of like, what do I do next, or anything like that, just know that that's okay. And a lot of people out here, regardless if they're an athlete or not, or if they're a retiree, or if they're a divorcee, or if you're dealing with any sort of grief, realize this is just part of your evolution. So on the other side of this, what is your go-to move? What is your counter? What is your secondary counter? And regardless of you're in sport or not, I guarantee you that type of mindset and that next play mentality is going to take you further than you ever could have imagined.
So good. You know what I want to say to you, Chris? I just want to say thank you for opening the window.
Oh, no, of course. Like I said, hey, listen, open up the window, move the blinds out the way. Everybody, hey, Noah's Ark, come on, speed in.
Throw a rope and bring them in. I love it. And to be greeted by you at the top would be just joy for so many. Love that.
Thank you both. Like I said, I really appreciate the platform. I really just appreciate you all doing this work because there's a lot of stories out there that are far greater than mine, far more impactful than mine that, you're going to come in contact with, or people that you've already spoken to. But without the platform, it doesn't reach anybody. So, I'm grateful for you both having this platform, us working against time zones, all that fun stuff that we get to do as this trio, as we've been cooking this episode up. So I'm grateful for both of y'all.
Well, we have loved every minute of this conversation and would happily keep it going. But unfortunately, it's time for us to throw you under the figurative bus with our favorite game.
Let's go.
Chris, I'm going to take you now through a game of this or that. And it's exactly as the title infers. You get to choose one of the 2 options I'll give you. The option you choose is going to be the first that comes to mind. You don't have to overthink it. This game does go a little bit sideways quite frequently. So we find our guests like to have this, that, or both. Look, if you have to, choose both. We'd rather hear one answer. But give us an explanation. We're good for it. You ready to play?
I'm ready for it. And I'm going to put myself in a box here. It's going to be this or that. I'm not taking the cop out. We're not going both.
Here he goes.
We're not.
Finally. Honestly, Chris, I respect that so much. We have had so much this, that, or both that I'm indecisive by the end of it. I agree with everyone. I also end up thinking, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. So yeah, this will be great.
This is good. Unless there's something crazy. The crazier we get, I might provide some context. But other than that, we're good. I'm diving in.
No, we're straight line. We're straight line here. Let's rock and roll. Let's do this. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Basketball or business?
Business.
Vacations booked or spontaneous getaways?
Spontaneous getaways.
Overseas career or home life?
Overseas career.
Like it. Data or instinct?
Data. If you can't prove it, you lose it.
Okay. Routine or freedom?
Freedom, but it should probably be routine.
See, this is that'll both. This is
what happens. Yeah.
Right. But I'm standing on business. I'm just saying freedom. Freedom is my answer.
Team environment or solo work?
Team environment.
Mentor or coach?
Mentor.
Build something or join something?
Build something.
And the most important question you'll be asked today, this week, probably this month, are you coming for a holiday in Australia or not?
I'm coming for a holiday in Australia, and I am willing to try Vegemite one more time.
Yes. Chris Eversley, that was this or that, and you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. It has been such a pleasure to have you join us. I have one last question for you. It's a bit of a summary question. If someone was listening to this episode and they felt like the best part of their life ended with sport, what would you want them to know?
Know that you're going to wear a lot of different masks throughout your life. And a lot of people think that they are defined by their career. But at the same time, you can go down the line. Playing careers, regardless of sport, we'll say you have maximum 7 years, and that's if you go pro. So then you're looking at potentially being done before you're 30. The average life expectancy is 85 with good medicine. So you've got 55 years left. Do you think that that previous mask will serve the next generation? And more importantly, do you think people would care? I'm 35, 5 years into it. I can tell you people do not care. So I would advise to start developing another mask and really sit with yourself, whether it's journaling, whether it's meditation. Think about two specific steps. What are you better at than anybody else in the world? And it's okay to be arrogant. And can you monetize it? If you can answer those two questions, the next 55 years of your life are going to be gravy. But it's a very hard two questions to answer. So if you need help finding that stuff out, come find me.
Love this. And we will share your details, Chris, with our listeners. It has been such a pleasure to chat with you. One of the things we talk about a lot on this podcast is that there's this assumption that transition happens just once, that you finish playing or you get a job and then you move on, right? But almost every conversation we've had tells us that's not really how life works. And Chris's story hasn't changed our mind today. Chris has already moved away, started again, built something new. And his plot twist was that life has asked him to do it all over again more than once. What we've loved about our time with you, Chris, is that it never feels like you're trying to get back to who you used to be, but you're trying to work out who you are in each new version. And that's incredible. I think there's something in that for all of us, whether sport has been your whole world or whether you're just sitting in a season where something looks different to what you expected. You'll find something in this episode from Chris. Chris, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, for sharing your evening and our morning with us. It has been a true pleasure.
No, thank you both. Again, like I said, I appreciate you all. I appreciate the platform and all of the Almost Pro fans out there. Hopefully y'all enjoy this. And yeah, whenever you hear it, just have a great day. Whatever day you hear it on, have a great week, have a great year, have a great life.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Chris. And to everyone listening, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time on Almost Pro.